This training mission follows the procedures described on the flight manual of the real aircraft, adapted for use on the A-4E of DCS. The step numbers, when provided, corresponds to those of the NATOPS manual, and are given to allow easy reference to it. The checklist includes the following sections. Before taxi. Taxi. Before takeoff. Takeoff. Initial climb. If the cockpit interior is too dark, activate the flashlight with left Alt+L. Previous to taxi, you should complete the final checks. On the lower right side of the cockpit there is a concise checklist to remind you of the steps. 1. Check trim. A. Aileron trim. Confirm stick is centered. B. Rudder trim. Confirm that it is set to 0 degrees. C. Elevator trim. Check that it is set to 6 degrees nose up. 2. Seat harness, shoulder harness locked. Click on its handle to adjust. 3. Canopy, close before moving the aircraft, using the highlighted lever. 4. Flaps, confirm that they are retracted for taxiing. 5. Speed brakes, check that they are on the closed position. 6. Armament, confirm all switches off, emergency selector switch at appropriate setting. 7. Spoilers, check that they are armed, for short operations. 8. Nose wheel steering switch, check that it is set to normal. This switch is not simulated yet, so it can't be moved. Confirm nose wheel operation, by pressing the nose wheel steering button on the HOTAS, or the N key, while using the rudder to steer. Use F2 to check it from outside view. Our carrier fleet is not far. We will tune the TACAN receiver to the carrier's TACAN station 74X. First, set the TACAN mode to transmit receive, DR. To tune the station 74, right-click on the center of the tuning dial, until a 4 shows on the bottom of the channel window. Good. Now, right-click on the outer part of the tuning dial, until a 7 shows on the middle of the channel window, for a total display of 074. Finally, adjust the volume knob until you can just hear the TACAN station's Morse code, to confirm that it is correctly tuned. The UHF radio is energized by turning its function selector knob, from off to DR or DR+G. With DR+G, the separate guard frequency should be monitored, in addition to the selected channel or frequency, but this is not simulated in DCS. The radio can be tuned in one of 2 modes. Preset. The mode selector knob is placed in this position if one of the 20 preset channels, that were programmed by the ground crew, is to be used. Man. Used when the desired frequency is not preset. The mode selector knob is placed in man, and the frequency is set manually by using the 3 manual select knobs. For this mission, select preset mode. Next we will tune the UHF radio. Our current airbase, Sochi Adler, uses an air traffic controller UHF frequency of 256 MHz, as you can check if you call up the map with the F10 key and click on the airbase icon. Open up the kneeboard, with right shift plus K page forward with the closing square bracket key. On the page titled Radio Presets, you will find that preset 3 is currently set to the 256 MHz frequency. Close the kneeboard, with the same, right shift plus K, keys. Use the highlighted knob to select preset channel 3, with right or left mouse clicks. Now that we have the radio properly tuned, contact Sochi Air Traffic Controller, by pressing the HOTAS PTT button or the / key. Select F1. Request taxi to runway.
Springfield 1-1. Request taxi
If there is
to
other
runway.
traffic on the taxiways, you may receive the message hold position. In that case, wait until the taxiway is cleared and then contact ATC again.
Springfield 1-1.
Once ATC gives you clearance to taxi towards the runway, take note of the runway that has been assigned. On this case, ATC should assign runway 24. We are now ready to taxi. You will steer the aircraft using your rudder pedals while pressing the nose wheel steering button on the flight stick, which you should have mapped to your HOTAS. Alternatively, you can also steer using differential wheel braking, keys left shift plus W, and left alt plus W. For this mission, we will taxi towards runway 24 via Street J. On the briefing, view it with left alt plus B keys, is a diagram of this airbase, where you can check which is Street J. Advance throttle to a little over 70%, release brakes if held and let the aircraft move. Good, now turn left, and proceed towards the east end of the airbase. Now turn a bit towards the left, the entrance to Street J is to the left. Now turn a bit towards the right, the entrance to Street J is to the right. Good. Now proceed along Street J. Be careful, as we have to cross over runway 20, in order to get to runway 24. Do not exceed 15 knots while taxiing, or the aircraft can tip over when turning. We are approaching the crossing of runway 20, slow down and look both ways to check for other air traffic. If clear, cross the runway and proceed on Street J. You are now almost at the runway 24. Stop just short of entering it and call ATC for clearance. Good. Contact ATC by pressing the PTT button on your HOTAS, or using the / key. Select F1. Request takeoff. Once ATC has given clearance, increase throttle, turn right to enter the runway, align with its center line, and stop the aircraft for a final check.
29.82.
Once you are aligned with the runway center line, bring the aircraft to a halt. Good. Now that you are still and properly aligned on the runway, you should do a manual fuel control check. Press backspace if you want to do it, or spacebar to skip it. 1. Manual fuel control check. A. Throttle. 85% RPM while holding wheel brakes. B. Fuel control, switch to manual, while keeping RPM at 85%. C. Fuel control light, check on, and engine indication that switchover has occurred. D. Fuel control, switch to primary, while keeping RPM at 85%. E. Fuel control light, check that it goes off. Reduce RPM to idle. 2. Check for takeoff flaps, they should be set to half flaps. Three. Recheck the attitude gyro, RMI, engine instruments, trim indicators, and flap setting. 4. Ensure drop tank switch in pressure position if external fuel carried and ensure emergency wing transfer switch off. We are now ready to take off. Press wheel brakes. Increase throttle to military power. As the engine accelerates through 90%, Release brakes to prevent skidding the tires. Use nose wheel steering or differential wheel brakes to maintain directional control until rudder becomes effective at about 70 knots. At 135 knots, pull back on the control stick to raise the nose to a takeoff attitude, and allow the aircraft to fly itself off the ground on the air. Retract the landing gear with the G key, or by clicking the highlighted handle. Adjust pitch trim to settle into a 10 degrees nose. We have reached 170 knots. Retract the flaps by clicking on the highlighted handle, or using your HOTAS or the F key. Good. Now deactivate the spoilers by clicking on the highlighted switch. You may now climb along your planned route and accelerate to cruise speed. Your heading should be 240 degrees. Climb speed 250 knots. Adjust pitch trim to attain a 10 degree. Strive to maintain a 240 degrees heading during the climb. Maintain a pitch angle of 10 degrees nose up. Adjust using the pitch trim buttons on the flight stick. Maintain a pitch angle of 10 degrees nose up. Adjust using the pitch trim buttons on the flight stick. Congratulations, you have successfully finished this training mission. On the next mission we will learn the shore landing procedure. For now, please exit the training by pressing the escape key.